here. Before I pass it to my co-host Matthew, I would like to share an upcoming event with you. The College of Engineering and the Engineering Student Council are hosting their winter Cocoa and Clubs fair this Friday, January 28th from noon to 2. Students have the option to attend both in person and remotely, and I'll go ahead and put the event details in the chat. I will also share electrical engineering and computer sciences career and networking student event calendar in the chat, so you have that link as well. And now I'll pass it on to my co-host Matthew.
Thank you, Tiffany. My name is Matthew. I was about to say fourth year. This is my fifth year. I'm a fifth year computer science student here at Oregon State. I've had the pleasure of doing moderating quite a few of these events over the last couple of years, and I always really enjoy it. It's super fascinating to kind of hear all of the different backgrounds, all of the different fields that our panelists have worked in, and every time that I do one of these, I always get quite a bit of really useful information and leave just really feeling quite inspired and kind of motivated to go out and kind of utilize my network and the resources that are available to me. So I'm looking forward to another round of that tonight and getting to hear from our panelists. So I'll go ahead and pass it right back on over to Tiffany. Tiffany, I think you might still be on mute.
I am. You would think I would learn one of these days. It's probably because I'm not going to talk for very long. So thank you, Matthew. I would next like our amazing panelists to introduce themselves. Panelists, if you could share your name, current employer, and location. And for the attendees of this information is also on the website for this event. It has more detailed bios. And then for panelists, so in addition to your name, current employer, and location, if you could just give us a short summary of your career path and how you got where you currently are. Do I need to assign someone to start? Elena, will you start?
Let's start off with Brian. He's just the first one on my list.
Perfect.
There. Perfect.
All right. Sounds good. So hi, everyone. My name is Brian. I currently work for Columbia University in the city of New York. Specifically, I work for the Environmental Health and Safety Department here. So I gave away where the location is. I'll try to keep my summary as brief as possible, but disclaimer, it is 9:20 p.m. over here, so it's very close to my bedtime. I'm going to try to keep my brain focused and not ramble. So anyways, basically I started my career path at Oregon State. I started studying my bachelor's in nuclear engineering. I did a lot of participation in clubs, Greek life, extracurriculars to really, build connections and help me kickstart my career. And, this helped me get into things like being a research assistant, working as a College of Engineering ambassador, and then eventually actually working as the program management intern for the Leadership Academy as well. So, kind of building an early network and an early group of friends, early group of people helped me get into these positions. And that would help me get the internships later on with, a few different companies that I got the pleasure to work with. So, these companies are Framatome and Lawrence Livermore National Lab, just to mention those. I worked a few other positions, but those are the ones I really, really enjoyed and highlight a lot in my life. So that is kind of a quick background on me.
I can go next. So hi, everyone. My name is Elena Raposo. I just graduated from Oregon State last year in 2021. I am currently located in Kansas City, Missouri. It's kind of random coming from Oregon to Missouri. And I work at the Stowers Institute for Medical Research. I'm a research scholar currently. So I have a post-bac fellowship position kind of deal. So I do research currently. And in terms of my career path, I actually also started out as a College of Engineering ambassador at Oregon State. And I also was the intern for the Leadership Academy right after Brian was, after he graduated. So yeah, I did a lot of internship positions in the research field throughout my academic undergrad. So I worked at OHSU for my first summer position, and then I did a summer research position at the University of Miami Medical School. And throughout my undergrad, also during my junior and senior years, I did research within the physics department, which is kind of counterintuitive since I graduated as a bioengineer. But I did research within the biophysics field. And so I actually got what is it called? A research paper that I published just recently with that position. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of research throughout my academic career and also took on leadership positions within the College of Engineering as I went through my undergrad.
I can go. So my name is Haley Coots, and I graduated in 2019 with a degree in electrical and computer engineering. I now live in Seattle. I just got recently started a new position for the city of Seattle as an electrical engineer in the grid modernization department, which is super fun, super exciting. I'm super excited about it. But I was working before at a company called Eaton Corporation, where I was a power systems engineer. And I actually got that position from someone I met on my MECOP internship at Clean Water Services. So that was super helpful. I was like a TA in the electrical engineering department. I was a College of Engineering ambassador. And that all kind of helped me in getting my new position, just because I had to get like letters of recommendation, or I guess references from other like previous employers. And it helped that I had a bunch of employers at OSU that could vet me out and say like, oh, she was good. So it was very helpful.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikita Lal. I work for Turner Construction in Portland. I graduated in June of 2020, so right when classes turned online and the pandemic had hit. And the way I found my job, actually, a year prior, I attended one of the AGC speaker meetings where Turner Construction came and talked about their company for an hour and offered interviews the next day. So I interviewed with them. A month later, signed a contract. This was fall of my junior year, and was fortunate enough to have that job waiting for me to start October 2020. So graduated in June, started with Turner just a couple months after that, and have been working there ever since. I'm really excited to be here tonight and can't wait to hear any questions that you have for us.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Sneha. I graduated from Oregon State December of 2020, and I actually started at Deloitte Consulting in the government and public sector, working on technology consulting. Today is actually my 1-year anniversary at work, so I have a full year's worth of experience to share with you guys. But a little bit about my career path. At Oregon State, I studied industrial engineering, and similar to Brian and honestly everyone else on this panel, really involved in student organizations. I was also a College of Engineering ambassador. I was on the Engineering Student Council, so lots of leadership experience, which was really valuable to me as I was, especially during interviews for jobs, just being able to represent those skills and have a strong network and experience with professionalism throughout all of these experiences. Then the summer after my junior year, I interned at Target in their warehouse for their .com business. If you order anything online at Target, it probably got shipped out from there. So that was a very hands-on experience, which was really cool. Showed me a lot about what I enjoyed and also showed me a lot about what I did not enjoy. And I think both are really valuable. And then fall term of my senior year at the career fair, I met Deloitte, and similar to, I think, Nikita, I went to some of their events in that week, and they had us apply within that week and did interviews. And I got an interview for an internship. And just for context, I graduated in the winter, so I still had another summer after my senior year, kind of. So I got an internship, and then when COVID hit, the internship got canceled and converted into kind of an optional virtual thing.
And I was really lucky because Deloitte gave all of their graduating senior interns full-time job offers. And so that's how I got my job offer at Deloitte. Been there for a year. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I'm excited to be back here and share a little bit more.
Awesome, thank you. I hope attendees are taking notes. We've already heard a lot of amazing themes: career fairs, networking, leadership opportunities. So all of this is fantastic. So we have a couple questions that were sent in ahead of time that we will get to. But I also encourage you, if you have a question, to go ahead and raise your hand. And to do that, if you click on the reactions, you can actually click on the raise your hand. You'll just have to remember to lower it until you'll answer once your question has been answered. And we also have the option to put them in the chat. And so we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. I know that you'll probably have more than we have time for, but just know that we'll do our best to get to all of them. And Matthew, I'm going to let you go ahead and start us off with the first question.
Awesome, sounds great. So one of the questions that we had sent in to us was talking about mentorship. And so that question is going to be, have mentors played a key part in your career journey? And then how did you find those mentors? And so if that's a good question, if any of you have like a story or some advice there, feel free to share. Just kind of how mentors played a role into where you're at now.
I actually have a story and advice, so kind of both. And so for me, I've had multiple mentors throughout my undergraduate career, and currently I have multiple mentors. And I think for my advice, I would say having one mentor is not enough. Having multiple mentors is like really, really helpful because you get the chance to listen to different perspectives and then sum it all up and then make your decision, right? And different mentors are going to have different personalities, different mentalities, and different areas of expertise. So having someone who can give you advice for specific things in your career or in your life is really helpful because sometimes, like I have a mentor who I'm closer to, so I can actually like talk to them about how, my personal life and my career and how those two things are going. And I can talk to that person about that. But for a mentor who's more, professional and I don't know, met at a career fair, it might be harder to talk about that. So having multiple mentors is like, it's a great idea. And I actually heard about that advice probably like a year ago. And I had been doing that throughout, my undergraduate career. So I thought it was a really good advice and I would like to pass that on. And as for my own experience, I actually had multiple different ways of meeting mentors. One of them was during one of my internships at OHSU. During one summer, I had a mentor assigned to me. And sometimes when you get a mentor assigned to you, you might not necessarily, hit it off with that person immediately because it's harder because they were introduced to you as a mentor. But I would say that, going through that pathway is also pretty good because, like they know you in a professional setting and they're going to give you advice in that profession. So I think having a mentor that was introduced to you might not be bad, but it might be bad as well. So really, I think what it comes down to is how well you hit it off with that person and where you met that person and, keeping close ties and, checking up on the mentor every now and then. So yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome, thank you. Nikita, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to just echo a lot of those points. I would say the fact that all of you are here in this session is a really good sign. This is a great way to meet a mentor. I think you can meet a mentor anywhere, really. And something that's been really important to me that I've learned is learning to compartmentalize what mentors provide into what type of experience for you. For me, I found mentors who helped me navigate being a woman in construction. others who help me navigate being a person of color, others who help me just navigate new perspectives, someone who has nothing in common with me, just to provide input that I maybe wouldn't have otherwise. And even in that, I think it's important just to recognize that mentors can take all forms. They can be older, younger, your same age. They may not even be in your industry. And actually, a lot of my most important mentors aren't engineers. They're just professionals. And I think that's helped just make me rounded, and I think can serve a lot for other people. Mentors really make you a better person, or that's in my mind what the objective of having a mentor is. So it's important just to be a good person, on the inside, and then on the outside of that, be the best professional you can. You don't want to put up a facade of who you are and fake your personality if that's not true to how you identify yourself. And I think having multiple mentors can help an individual find that path into what type of person they want to be.
I could quickly add to this as well. I think everyone has really good points so far. I would also add that creating a habit of mentorship. So a lot of times, like for me personally, I know sometimes it's awkward to have conversations with your mentors, especially if they're maybe not your peer. You might not know what to talk about every single time, but I've learned that having just time set aside to have a discussion with that person, regardless of if you have like an end goal or something you need from them, that's just as valuable. And it's better to have some kind of connection and some kind of discussion with that person. You never know what's going to come out of that conversation than to kind of not have the conversation at all. So I would definitely recommend that. And at my company, we all get assigned mentors, and you can kind of choose, change them if you don't like get along with them or if you have different goals. But these are people that when I first joined, I thought it was really uncomfortable to have these conversations and I never knew what to talk to them about. But over time, you just get more comfortable with each other. And it's a great way to kind of continuously check in on your goals and your stuck points or anything that you want to fix or do better, and get advice from them. And a mentor doesn't have to be older than you or in an industry or anything like that. They could be your peers. I think we should all like practice mentoring each other and kind of sharing the wealth of knowledge that we get. So yeah, that's what I would have to share.
I love that. I also love your point about that mentors may change, right? Just like if you were to change your academic major, you might have a new advisor. And so as you progress through your profession, that might change. It looks like we have a question from Tegan. I hope I'm saying them correctly.
Yeah, hi. I actually have
Hi.
a question for Elena. You mentioned that you are doing a postbac right now, and I'm actually thinking strongly of doing a postbac, and I was wondering how you found out about that position in the first place.
Yeah, postbac positions are actually pretty hard to find, and I think I was pretty lucky. I think I found two during the time that I was applying. So a little bit of background: I'm trying to apply for MD PhD programs currently, and I decided to take a gap year. And I was like, well, I need to do something that not only fills up my time, but also is important and I can learn. So I decided to look for research positions. And you can either, I think, like right out of undergrad, for research, you can either get like a technician position or you can go into a postbac. I think that's, in my mind, those are the two things that you could do. But with a technician position, you get more of a, in that position, you kind of just, do menial tasks in a lab. So for example, you fill up on a certain chemical or you do this specific experiment for someone in the lab. It's not like you get the reins on what kind of project you're doing. So I think for me, choosing a postbac position was really important because I wanted to do my own research and be able to learn as I go. And to go back to your question, I kind of went off on a tangent. Postbac, I found the postbac position actually through, I think, a Listerev in the College of Engineering, or I think it was the pre-med listserv, and I can actually send you some information later on. If you are interested, you can just contact me on OSU Connections. But the position that I'm in right now is actually accepting applicants. So I do have some connections in, the post-bac field, and if you're interested in knowing a little bit more, just contact me.
Yeah, I'll definitely take you up on that. I'm sorry, but I don't know what OSU connections are, but I can figure that out elsewhere.
Or LinkedIn, I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat.
All right, thank you so much. That was super helpful.
No problem.
I can also, Tegan, share the link. The OSU Connections is almost like a LinkedIn, but specific to OSU. So it's a really great way to connect. So I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat for everyone in case others are interested. Matthew, you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I'd also love to make a plug for OSU Connections. I've used OSU Connections myself and met some really cool people. Actually just received a job offer from it or through connecting with somebody on there. So it's a super great resource. I highly suggest that you all take a look at that after we're done. Our next question for the panelists is going to focus a little more on maybe the job search here. So what was your job search or recruiting experience like? And do you have any advice to give our attendees based on your experience? Nikita, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I can start us off with that one. I mentioned earlier, I got my job through one of the AGC speaker meetings. I'm honestly not sure if OSU's what that looks like now with COVID, if they're in person or online, but that's where I found my internship and my full-time job, which was actually with two separate companies. So it introduced me to more than just one company. Those speaker meetings are great. It's a time for industry representatives to come to OSU and offer interviews on campus if you haven't been to one of these already. What it looked like when I was a student was an hour presentation. They talk about what type of work they do, what positions they're hiring for, what locations, and typically we'll offer interviews the next day between classes in the evening. I mean, to me, it didn't get more convenient than that because it was just a couple steps away from where I already lived. So it was really great to have that opportunity. Another thing about the speaker meetings that really called out to me is I don't have anyone in my family who works in construction. And typically in the CEM or CE program, a lot of people come from a background of construction. And so my intention with going to those speaker meetings was actually just to get smarter on the industry and to understand who some of these big general contractors are, what it even means to work for a general contractor, what type of work is happening in construction. Because 5 years ago when I started school, what I thought construction was, I learned is very different than what it actually is, having worked in the field for just over a year now. And so those speaker meetings are great, whether you decide to apply to a job or not. It's interview experience. I know that there were some companies that I wasn't very interested in, but I dropped my resume off and went for the interview just to get experience in that setting because the stakes weren't very high. I didn't really want that job anyway, but it allowed me to practice answering those questions and under that pressure to talk through my technical skills. So if you're in the College of Civil Engineering or Construction Engineering, I would highly recommend connecting with those AGC speaker meetings and learning more about the industry in general, and ideally using that to help get a job because the companies are there asking for students to drop off their resume. And actually having interviewed with Turner, the people who interviewed me on campus are people that I work with today. So it helps just build rapport before your first day of work. The people who interviewed me are now some of my closest people at work. So it helps really show you what that company can offer for you.
Awesome, thank you. Any other panelists want to weigh in and kind of give us some advice? Brian, looks like.
Yeah, I could absolutely give a quick pitch on that. So my job search was pretty scary. It was basically it hit right in the middle of COVID, or when COVID was really starting to ramp up. And the scariest part was that you'd apply to a job and then you'd interview, and then you get all in your head about how the interview went, and then because the jobs, like so many businesses or so many universities were so busy with dealing with COVID, it would take them like 3 weeks to get back. And then you wouldn't hear back for, you do another interview and then you wouldn't hear back for another 3 weeks. So my biggest piece of advice, and it's very broad, is to just keep a positive mindset, keep your head up. If you got an interview, if they're interested in you, you've already made a big step in the right direction. Also keep in mind that you are an Oregon State engineer, so that is not an easy thing to be. I took that physics series. That was not easy for me at all. So you have already came a long way. I'm sure, you guys have built an amazing set of experience. Keep your head up during these interviews. It's constructive to think about, what may have not went, as well during an interview, so you can reflect on that and maybe do better in the next interview. But don't get down on yourself. Interviews are tough, so keep your head up. Try to keep a positive mindset, and all of you will get a fantastic job. It's a very tough job market with everything going on. Just keep a positive mindset is my advice for the search.
I just started a new job, so I guess I'm a little older than everyone else, so I've gone through the job search 2 times. But my first job that I got from out of college, I got from the career fair, and so I graduated in June 2019, but I got my job in November 2019. 2018, I guess, based on someone I talked to at the career fair, and then we had interviews like Nikita had with the AGC meeting like the next day or a couple of days after, with someone from Eaton, and I had just happened to have met him when I was on site at one of my at my MECOP internship. So I kind of got it in there, I guess. So got pretty lucky, I think, shot in the dark. But then I guess I was at my current job, my past job, for like 2 years, and then I started looking for new jobs, and I used LinkedIn for the most part to find new jobs, because in Seattle there's a pretty big IEEE, which is like the electrical engineering international organization, presence. So I was able to connect with a lot of people from that and find jobs based on that. But I would say that I would agree with Brian, definitely, that I had a lot of interviews for my second, when just recently finding a job. And I did do pretty well, and I got a couple jobs. No, not to brag, but it is just you really do just have to stay keep your head in the game and do not get negative, because otherwise you are not going to do well.
I think that's great advice. It's almost like when you're in the job search, to make sure you have your affirmations up and very visible as you're progressing through that. As someone who's new to her job myself, I can definitely agree with that. It looks like we have another question from an attendee. Tyler, you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tiffany. And to all the panelists, thank you for being present today. All this has been a lot of really, really helpful information for job searching. So my question entails a bit of a fast forward. So let's say there's a job offer on the table, right? And we learn all these skills in college, but we're not really taught how much they're worth. So my question is, when the job offer is on the table, how do you know that you're being compensated appropriately? If you had room to negotiate, did you, and how did you do that? And then how did you navigate your benefits package?
So like I said, I just got a new job, and this job, for instance, when I got my Eaton job when I graduated college, there was some room for negotiation. I would say more so than now that I work for the city. It's a government position, so there's a lot less room to negotiate. For instance, I have a union position, so there is really a very specific band of money that they're allowed to offer you. So I was able to get it bumped up a couple dollars an hour, but it depends on the job. There really isn't I would say you should always try to negotiate and definitely do your research. You obviously, being in college, don't really have concept of what $80,000 a year is or what $100,000 a year is. But if you do a good amount of research to figure out this is starting salary in this city that I want to live in for this position, and compare that to a bunch of different companies, then I think you could have a pretty good idea of how much you're worth. But I think that you just have to kind of stay confident, like we were saying with interviews. if like you come into the negotiation and you're rude, they're not going to like appreciate that. If you come in and you're really meek, they're also not going to really appreciate that. So you just have to like, I guess, be confident in your abilities and say, I learned this in school. I know this, like I'm going to be successful. And that will probably get you farther than not negotiating, obviously.
I will add to that and say where you start is not where you end. Job offers will be one number as a starting rate typically, and whether it's salaried or hourly. I personally am not too money minded, and my decision didn't come down to the job that paid me the most. It was the one that I was the happiest, thought I would be the happiest in, or would be working with people that would make me the happiest. So there was an aspect of negotiation actually involved, and it often helps if you have multiple job offers and you do your internal pros and cons list, maybe run it by family members or friends, and just think through the different pros and cons of each job offer. And sometimes transparency with an industry can be good. And when I was going through my process of deciding between my internship and Turner and a couple other jobs, I had told Turner, I have experience with this other company that I interned with, and I really have reason to want to work with them, but I want to work for Turner. So what can you do to help me out? Or, without revealing too much about what the companies are offering you, I think sometimes letting the company know that you have multiple offers, they'll understand that you're going through the process of deciding where you want to work. And sometimes it comes down to what's on paper. But if you feel comfortable with what a company is offering you and you feel valued, which is a really tough thing to know what that feels like without comparing to your peers, I think that's more important than a lot of things, because what your peers get paid, or what the median average pay for an OSU graduate is hard to really put in perspective to what's personally acceptable to a person. And so for me, I felt comfortable, especially after negotiating. I did negotiate, and they offered a signing bonus and a couple other benefits that I happily took. I wanted to work for Turner, and they just gave me more reason to want to work for them. And so I will say, my point is where you start on your job offer is not always where you end. And there are other things that don't have monetary value in the offer, but do add up. So getting your phone paid for, a company car, fuel card, any of those additives that maybe aren't part of your salary are important to take into consideration beyond just that dollar amount. Be sure to just have a holistic mindset when you're looking at your job offers.
And I wanted to add one more thing. I know we've been talking about this for a little while now, but I think having a mentor who's in the same field as you are is actually something super important when it comes to, job offers and like asking about, am I being valued and that kind of stuff, because they probably have, if it's an older mentor who's in the same area as you, they're probably going to have some idea of what you're going through. And for me, like I would, before accepting the position, actually before accepting this post-bac position that I got, I actually asked one of my mentors, I was like, hey, how do you think this is enough? Like, are they paying me well? What about this benefits package? And it was like really super helpful for me to like talk it out with someone who's been through that in the same field as I have. So I think I would encourage you to talk to a mentor if you're unsure about, a position or an offer or something like that.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you for your question, Tyler. Let's see, Justin, it looks like you've got your hand up. We've got a little bit of time left, so go ahead and ask your question, and then we can we'll get wrapping up here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin. Thank you for being here. To the panelists, thank you. I'm a computer science student. I was wondering if you, from your experience, if you have any advice for us in considering opportunities that are in different geographical regions. I'm interested in working on the West Coast, but I noticed the company's headquarters is in a different state. And so I was wondering, from your experience, if you have any advice for us. So thank you.
I'm going to jump in on that because I'm in Missouri and I never would have thought I would be here. And honestly, at first I was like, really like, what is in Missouri? What's to do here, you know? And I would say, like, if the company interests you, take the risk. I didn't even actually know much about the Stars Institute, and it was the only one that gave me a position. So, you know, I decided to go. But I am pleasantly surprised about the area, and I'm pleasantly surprised with how happy I am right now. So I would say take the risk, because it's gonna either go in two directions. You're gonna like love it, or you're gonna be like, I don't want to live here. So now you know that this is not the type of environment that you're interested in, and you can then search for something else somewhere else. So I would say base your decision on what company you want to work for, or what kind of environment you want to have at work. And then if it ends up that you don't like that place very much, you can always change your position. You can always try to get a new job somewhere else.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Like, don't try not to worry too much about it. It is a very important thing to consider, but once you get into the job industry, you'd be surprised how fast a year goes. I've been at my job for a year, almost a year now, coming up in a couple weeks, and it's wild. It goes super fast. So don't it's gonna go fast, and no matter what, it's gonna be a good experience, and you're gonna figure out what you like. If it's not what's for you, then you find something new, and that's how it works. In the process of considering it, though, I would just recommend think about your previous experience where you visited, like what did you like about it, and try to kind of match that. I did an internship in kind of what I felt like was the middle of nowhere, and that told me I do not want to work in the middle of nowhere. So but at the same time, as Helena was saying, don't put too much weight on it. Take the risk, and see what happens. It'll go fast.
I'll add from the perspective of someone who's lived at home for the last 2 years and also works from home. But one of the main reasons why I chose Deloitte was because it's a massive global firm, and you have opportunities to easily move within the company, but different locations or different projects. And I think if that's something that you're interested in, try and look for something like that. That's valuable to me, because if you get tired of the current project you're working on, they would much rather move you to a location of your preference or project of your preference than have you leave the company, if that makes sense. So that was really valuable. And also it is nice to have kind of hybrid work now, with options to travel or options to stay home, whatever you're comfortable with. And you can even get opportunities outside of the country, so internationally in their international firms. So you can look for stuff like that as well.
Awesome, thank you. These are all fantastic questions. I wish our time wasn't coming to an end, but it is. And so I have one final question before we end, and that is, I'm not assuming that you would do anything differently, but if you could go back and do something different, is there something that you wished that you had known sooner? Or if you could go back, you would have done something sooner, or you would have done something differently, just as our attendees are thinking about, progressing through to the end of their degree. I'm always curious for that reflective piece.
This is probably, it's going to sound maybe silly, but I would say really just like take yourself and everything just a little less seriously. I used to sit in the library until 3 a.m. doing whatever. And I'm just like, I look back and I go, why? Like I could have done stuff during the day, but like I could have stopped at 9, went to bed. I wish I would have, but I didn't. And now like I was so stressed out in college. I was sick all the time. I was so ill. And now I graduated. I'm in the workforce and it's great. Everything is like, it's like, obviously now I have to like pay more bills and drive to work and stuff, but it's awesome just to like keep your head up, keep going, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, I swear.
I agree with that 100%. I think about my job interviews, and I remember my first one on campus, my first technical job interview for an engineering company, where we didn't talk about school at all. At the time, I was an RA, and that was the first thing they saw on my resume because that was the best thing I could advertise as a sophomore in college. And my interviewers went crazy. They just wanted to talk about things I seen as an RA, things that they, saw their RA's experience when they were in college. And, those are the things that make you a person and make you well-rounded. If you like to travel, if you like to cook, if you like to be active, all of those things make you yourself. Being an engineer is one part of you. It is not everything. So, do your best to be the most professional engineer you can be and the most technically, skilled, knowledgeable engineer you can be. But at the end of the day, if you graduate from Oregon State with an engineering degree, you are competent for any job that's coming your way. And a lot of the companies that will come recruit from Oregon State know the curriculum and know what you're capable of. So while in college, work on the things that make you yourself, that make you unique, because if you're trainable and a great person, a company would be happy to have you. If you're trainable and not someone they want to work with, it makes it a little bit harder to get yourself in that position. So really just find out what makes you happiest and what makes you feel the most like yourself, and surround yourself with it, because those are the things that will carry outside of school beyond your grades and your classes and how you did. That'll help get you a job, but it's really important that you can also be your own person at the same time.
I would say be confident. I kind of dropped that in the chat earlier as well, but don't compare yourself to other people. Like, I feel like I would always compare myself to my peers, regardless of whether or not they were in my major, with like what internships they were getting or what grades they were getting, and feel less by myself. And at the end of the day, I mean, once you get your job, once you like do your internship, I realized that, everyone has different paths and everyone has different goals, and it doesn't make sense to compare ourselves against people that have different aspirations than ourselves. Like, I'd be comparing myself to someone who wants to be working at this super technical, really big, well-known firm. Whereas for me, maybe I wouldn't thrive in such an environment. So there was really no point for me to feel bad about myself for not being able to achieve that same thing. And at the end of the day, you just want to choose kind of what makes you happy and what makes you confident, what really fulfills you. And, it doesn't really come down to a GPA or a salary number either. It's really just about what's kind of satisfying you and what's making you feel like your degree was worth it. And it also doesn't have to be engineering. I think that's another thing. Like, if you get an engineering degree and decide to not work in a technical area, that's fine. Like, engineering provides you with amazing problem solving skills. Like, I don't do much technical stuff at all in my day-to-day, but the problem solving, the creativity that comes with engineering, it's super valuable.
I love all of this wonderful advice. I wish that I had attended a panel like this when I was getting ready to graduate. This has all been so incredibly informational. I just want to say thank you so much to our wonderful panelists. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us this evening. I know, like I just said, I've learned a lot. And on behalf of the College of Engineering and the Oregon State University Alumni Association, I would like to thank everyone who joined us today. And I will turn it over to Matthew for some final words.
I would absolutely like to just echo what Tiffany said. It's been awesome, especially as someone who's getting ready to enter the real world here coming up soon. It's been great to hear from you guys and just all of the different perspectives. So thank you very much for taking some time out of your evening to be here with us, or I guess in Brian's case, late at night to be here with us. And thanks to everybody who came in and made this event possible. I appreciate you all showing up. So thank you all so much, and check out OSU Connections. I highly recommend it.